Our next speaker is Denise FANDEL. Denise was hired by the BOC in 1997 to establish a national headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. Her career began at the University of Nebraska-Omaha in 1983, where she was quickly promoted to the head athletic trainer just after 2 years. While at UNO, she continued to develop undergraduate athletic training courses for the internship route candidates. UNO later became the first institution to offer both an accredited undergraduate and graduate athletic training program. Denise has served as a volunteer in many capacities throughout her 30-plus year career. She served as president of the Nebraska Athletic Trainers Association from 1988 through 1990. She was a commissioner on the National Commission for Certifying Agencies from 2004 to 2010, serving as co-chair from 2006 to 2007 and chair from 2007 to 2010. Denise currently serves as vice chair for the Institute for Credentialing Excellence, as well as a co-chair for the Medical and Safety Committee for the 2015 State Games of America, which is being held in Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska. Denise.
Hi everyone, shortest for last here. Last regulatory conference, there was a request for some information on mutual recognition arrangements or agreements. You've heard a lot from the panelists, and so I just wanted to give you a little background on where we're going with the mutual recognition agreement. So a little bit of history. In 2005, the BOC and the CATA signed an agreement that recognized the certification of both groups as eligibility for an ATC, let's say, in the United States, to be able to go to Canada and be able to take, or what they say in Canada is to write their exam. So it was recognition of the education and training, not granting reciprocity, but saying that based upon the requirements of each certification program, you would be eligible to challenge the exam in the other country. So that was in 2005. Okay. Then when we look at 2014, the process expanded. Whoops, sorry about that. And in 2014, as Susan mentioned, ARTI, the Athletic Rehabilitation Therapy Ireland, became a member of the Mutual Recognition Agreement. So now a student in the United States who's BOC certified could, should they desire, be able to go over to Ireland and challenge their exam, or go to Canada, or any of the 3 different arrangements. We have not yet had a student who's certified, or a certification candidate, come to the United States and apply. We have a couple of students in the U.S. who are looking, once they gain their BOC certification, to do that in Ireland. Over the years, we've generally had 2 to 5 students that are CATACs, which is the Canadian Athletic Therapist Certified, come and challenge the BOC exam and vice versa. So as Susan said, this is a 5-year agreement, so we'll be taking a look at that. But we wanted to give you, as regulators, a little bit of a background of what the process was and where we got to the point of saying that certification by either of those 2 organizations makes you eligible to take the BOC exam. So one of the areas that we have everybody take a look at is eligibility. So in this, the working group looked at the curricula in each of the organizations. I want to say countries, but mutual recognition agreements are between organizations, not by country. So we looked at the curricula and we looked to find out what the accreditation requirements were, compared those, and looked for equality across those based upon regional differences. Then the next part was we looked at the exam. So we looked at eligibility requirements for the exam, and even more specifically, besides the content blueprints, we looked at the psychometrics of the exam. Were the exams reliable? Did they have high discrimination and difficulty? So we looked at that part of it. The next part that we looked at was the areas of evaluation. We looked at regulatory bodies because we understand that when you're recognizing a certification, and especially in the United States, we're potentially impacting regulatory acts. So we looked what are the different regulatory bodies that govern the practice of athletic training, athletic therapy, or rehabilitation therapy in Ireland. We really looked at definitions. We looked to make sure that there was professional conduct and ethics requirements for each organization. There needed to be a disciplinary process. There needed to be a continuing competence or continuing education requirement. So we really looked to determine if there was equality across those areas. So there are many benefits with a mutual recognition arrangement, mostly for the candidates who want to have their credentials recognized and potentially portability. It helps advance the profession and make it more visible outside of the home country. It also lends credibility to the practice. So we look at Ireland. They had never had a profession, and they really started and created from scratch the profession. So much work has gone on since they started that in 2002 that today they're meeting with the Minister of Health, trying to have athletic rehabilitation or rehabilitation therapists recognized by their Minister of Health. So that meeting probably happening right now, given the time change. So these are the things that having the mutual recognition arrangement are going to help ARTI be able to hopefully achieve recognition as a healthcare profession inside their national health systems. So we need to look at what the impact is for you as regulators and some of the things that we're finding as the mutual recognition arrangement continues to expand. One of the things we have to look at is, what do your definitions say? In the United States, our definitions predominantly are either wide open or they're very specific to the U.S. system. So things like how you define an accredited institution. Will it allow for an individual who's gone to a Canadian accredited institution to be able to meet your definitions and be eligible for licensure? Because as Susan said, we tell everyone that just because you can earn the BOC certification does not mean you're going to be able to legally practice in the United States, because our exam is recognized, but you have to meet state requirements. And so we're finding some things with definitions that are keeping people from being able to get licensed in certain jurisdictions. The other thing is how you define the AT curriculum approved by the board. Are you using that language, and will your board be able to look at the Canadian accredited programs or the Irish accredited programs? How do you define accredited program, and do you have CATI accredited in your language? Because that probably will exclude those from Canada and those from Ireland being able to come into your jurisdictions. So some things to look at in either your state practice acts or in your rules and regulations. Also, as athletic training continues to internationalize, there are exchange programs being developed between CATI accredited institutions and institutions in Canada and in Ireland. So the question comes to regulatory boards: can a student from Ireland practice on patients in your state if they are not registered as a member of the CATI accredited program? Do they meet your definition of student as being able to be supervised so that they can actually have patient contact? So some institutions in some jurisdictions can develop exchange programs where there's actual clinical interaction between the student and a patient. In other jurisdictions, in other states, you may not, your institutions that have accredited programs may not be able to have exchange programs and allow those students to legally meet the guidelines for a student. So it's one of the things that we need to take a look at. There are resources available to you, both the ARTI website, the BOC's website, the CATA or the CATA, and the World Federation have information for students. If you go to each of those websites, you'll also be able to move around to different websites. I just want to raise one other question, not about internationalization, but one of the things that we're also finding at the BOC is looking at your definitions of students and your accredited programs because one of the things that we heard in St. Louis amongst some folks is that your definitions of student and accredited institution and accredited education programs are being interpreted by folks at the secondary school and non-CATIE accredited programs as being able to have work-study or other folks not looking to an AT health profession being able to deliver patient care in non-accredited programs or in secondary schools. So besides the international side of that, your definitions of students, accredited programs are being interpreted to fit certain people's needs, and you may be getting cases coming for you for unlicensed practice, and where some people say, well, yeah, you know, that student's really a first aider, but are they delivering patient care? And if they're not at an accredited institution, do they really meet your definitions of student? So that was some of the topics that kind of align with this that just wanted to raise to you in terms of impacts for you as regulators. Okay, so we have additional information. We didn't give you Susan's email address, but if you want to talk to Susan, you can go through us, and we help to keep her mailbox size down a little bit. But her email address is available on our website. But please contact us. I know you'll contact Shannon with your questions, and she interacts with you tremendously. But if you do have questions related to mutual recognition arrangements, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.